from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
A target date is set for U.S. beef to finally be shipped to China. We'll have a check on the farm economy and land values. And agribusiness watching for the week ahead in markets.
If we're below trend line on corn or beans, watch out. This market price has every reason to rally because that demand is so fantastic.
Machinery Pete says condition matters at auction and the wild side of feral hogs in Texas.
Agday, brought to you by the dependable, longest-lasting Chevy Silverado.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Washington preparing for another busy week following a flurry of activity Friday. From trade to the economy to multiple price rallies, the ag industry with plenty of momentum. On the trade front, the Commerce Department setting a date to reopen the Chinese market to U.S. beef. After nearly 14 years, July 16th is now set as the target date, although it could come sooner. Both countries finally coming to an agreement, now with just a few technical and paperwork issues to iron out. The export market is believed to be worth $2.6 billion.
For the China deal to be significant, I think we're going to have to see a shipment actually show up. And then the next question from that point forward will be, has China gotten any of our beef to this point anyways? And to really see what kind of impact that's going to be from an export standpoint, it's actually going to take some time to play out.
The deal does allow cooked poultry back into the U.S. from China. The National Chicken Council says they're supportive of the agreement and hope to see China reopen their market to U.S. broilers in the near future. Now, on that trade front, lawmakers confirming Robert Lighthizer as the new U.S. Trade Representative nearly 4 months after his nomination. Lighthizer confirmed by an 82-14 vote in the U.S. Senate. He'll have plenty to do, including renegotiating NAFTA, which Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue says could happen in the next 6 months. Ag groups, including members of the produce industry, are already anticipating turbulence.
The U.S. exports $4.8 billion of fresh and processed fruits and vegetables to Canada and less than $1 billion to Mexico. Mexico is the dominant source of U.S. imports of fruits and vegetables. In 2015, nearly $10 billion of fresh produce came to the U.S. from Mexico. That accounted for 68% of all U.S. fresh vegetable imports that year and 42% of all fresh fruit imports.
Wall says if the U.S. leaves NAFTA, Mexico tariffs on apples, pears, and cherries could go back to pre-1994 levels of 20%. Canada's tariffs could potentially be at zero for fruit due to pre-NAFTA agreements. Also out of USDA, and former economics Washington insider Jim Wiesmeyer says the agency is set to announce several key positions. Jim telling AgriTalk the American Soybean Association's Steve Sensky is likely to be named Deputy Secretary of USDA. Now, other names and roles: Undersecretary for the new Farm Production and Conservation job, likely Iowa's Agriculture Commissioner Bill Northey, and the newly created Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agricultural Affairs, Wiesmeyer says, is likely to be Ted McKinney, Indiana's State Agriculture Director. Also in Washington, the EPA submitting its proposed 2018 biofuels requirements to the White House for review. The final rule must come out by November 30th. Sources are signaling the volume requirements will likely include 15 billion gallons of conventional biofuel, usually filled by corn-based ethanol. And that's based on the Energy Information Administration's forecast of continued increases in gasoline demand next year. A new round of reports shedding light on the health of the farm economy. According to the 10th Federal Reserve District in Kansas City, the farm economy weakened in the first quarter of 2017. Farm income, loan repayment rates, and the value of most types of farmland all trending lower in each of the district's 7 states. However, it varied from east to west, with western areas seeing more stress. Non-irrigated cropland values have only fallen 3% in the east since the first quarter of 2015, but they've dropped 24% out west.
Looking at 2017, prices are still subdued. Incomes are still expected to be lower than they had been. Farmland values still declining. So in terms of the financial picture, I think it is tighter than where we had been. We see continued pressure, but it's not an environment that would suggest crisis.
In the St. Louis district, farm income continued to decline in the Midwest and Mid-South during that first quarter, but values for quality farmland and ranch land saw its largest increases in 3.5 years. Quality farmland values during the first quarter of 2017 were 10% higher than they were during the first quarter of 2016. Ranch land or pasture land values rose about 7%. And in the 7th Federal Reserve District of Chicago, ag land values were unchanged from a year ago in the first quarter, the first such pause since late 2015. Cash rents, however, they continued to fall, down 7%. On the finance side, credit conditions slid in Q1 with repayment rates falling and demand for non-real estate loans on the rise. Now, cotton futures saw a big boost to end last week, rallying up to near 3-year highs. Nearby futures trading well above the 80-cent mark on Friday. Analysts indicating the rally is driven by stronger export sales and tightening stocks here in the U.S. This comes after a slew of USDA reports sent cotton tumbling to a one-month low earlier in the week. The National Cotton Council says 2017 is shaping up to be a big year.
Well, I think if we look at the market, we're seeing the big run in old crop contracts and not as much in the new crop contracts. And I think in part it just shows some of the tightness that we're seeing in the current supply and demand balance sheet for the 2016 crop compared to maybe as the market looks ahead to what might be the situation in 2017.
We'll take a closer look at the cotton complex tomorrow on Agday. Corn is emerging to the west. Mike Hoffman has a look in this morning's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Our first crop comment comes from Tom DeGroot in Melba, Idaho. He's not in the machinery any longer. Instead, he's watching these little guys grow. And Mike Dierick is still moving in Long Grove, Iowa. Mike says he has roughly 90% of his corn and 40% of the beans in the ground. However, every time the area dries out, he receives more rain. USDA's crop progress report will be released this afternoon. Taking a look at the drought monitor, you can see that the really only concerning areas in the far southeast, mainly southern Georgia into Florida. We'll show you who got the rain and who's going to get it this week coming up with my forecast. But first, here are some hometown temps.
Be prepared for work each day, rain or shine, by signing up for local weather forecast updates delivered straight to your cell phone. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
When we come back, it's our roundtable look at market expectations for the week ahead. And of course, weather will be a major part of that conversation. Plus, Machinery Pete is here.
Stay tuned, folks. Coming up, I'll tell you about a tractor from Wyoming that sold for a very high auction price.
And these wild hogs are tearing up Texas. We're off to the battlefield in the Lone Star State.
Get the roots your crops need by getting Radiate first. Visit lovelandproducts.com/radiate. See your CPS dealer today.
In agribusiness, an exciting end to the week in Chicago. Details now from the floor of the CME.
Big news overnight. The Chinese announced that they were going to be allowing U.S. beef to come back over to them starting in the next month and a half. That is very encouraging. Here today we have feeder cattle limit up in the first 4 months. Live cattle were strong but off their highs going into the close. And while this is very supportive and we're really very optimistic that our exports to China will now start to pick up, there are still some details yet to be worked out and there are still some questions about this. In particular, what grades, what they're going to allow, what they're really looking for, and also what they're looking for in exchange. But what might end up being just a rather small percentage of our overall production and might not have a huge impact on the balance sheet. The other thing is that we've heard many times before the Chinese were going to be importing our beef in a very short period of time, and it hasn't been the case. To some extent, we do want to take a little bit of a wait and see type of approach to this. We'll believe it when we see it, but at least for today, certainly helping the feeder cattle market, it's helping the cattle market. It has added some strength there. Again, this is Ted Seifert of Zaner Ag Hedge coming to you from the CME floor.
Welcome back. Here at the Agribusiness Desk, we have Angie Setzer of Citizens Grain and Naomi Bloom, Stuart Peterson. Welcome. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well, as we get started on this week, thinking about trade, Naomi, let's start with you. What are you thinking about as you prepare for a week in markets?
I'm coming off the Sunday night trade, just trying to take a look at what weather is doing. But I think this week I'm not expecting a lot of excitement by any means. I'm real curious to see if the funds are going to be doing any exiting of short positions, just to start to clean things out as we head into the end of the month. Of course, we'll keep an eye on planting progress, but I really think it's going to be a quiet week. More range trading, not a lot of excitement. I'd rather keep an eye on the cattle market and the hog market. I'm thinking that the hog prices are getting a little toppy here at this near this 80 level. So I would be aggressive on some hedges at that point, but otherwise I think it's going to be pretty quiet.
What do you think, Angie? Quiet, or are you watching funds or weather?
I'm watching weather, of course. course. I do anticipate reasonably strong planting progress in the Western Corn Belt. So I, of course, will probably have our Tuesday, everyone acting surprised that we got a crop planted in parts of the country. So I'll be prepared for that.
Yeah.
But from an overall standpoint, what I'm really going to start to pay attention to, aside from weather, is just the overall attitude towards commodities. I'd really like to see us start to get some solid support underneath us in energies and metals, kind of get an idea as to where we're heading from an economic standpoint and whether or not we could see some of these folks start to leave those outside market long positions that they've been getting into and hopefully come into commodities, because I think for them it will be a great investment opportunity from a seasonal standpoint and with what's going on overall, the corn wheat in the corn wheat complex especially. But I'll just really be watching weather and overall attitudes of the outside investors that we really are needing.
Naomi, as you look at last week's reports from USDA, does anything change fundamentally for us?
Not much has changed. It's just a really nice picture that demand is still so strong. That's the biggest takeaway.
Okay.
So if there's any weather issues that do emerge this summer, if we're below trend line on corn or beans, watch out. This market price has every reason to rally because that demand is so fantastic.
What about wheat, Angie? Anything in wheat as far as dynamics go?
We just got to get combines running before anyone realizes what's happened to that crop. There is damage. There is some real quality concerns out there. There are some real issues. As a trader, a physical trader, because I buy the physical and turn it into cash, I'm sitting here on the sidelines not making any moves because I don't know what to expect after we had a cold snap in Michigan last week.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779 or visit stuartpeterson.com. For help solving your cash grain problems, call Angie Setzer with Citizens LLC at 800-858-3738.
Visit farmjournalpro.com. Trusted analysis, professional insight. farmjournalpro.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day on this Monday morning. Mike Hoffman here. Mike, as we look at the map and precip over the last week or so, that kind of southeastern corner of Colorado getting 5 to 3 inches in a lot of places?
That's a lot for them in a week, isn't it? Yeah, this goes back a week ago Saturday through this past Friday, and you can see as we zoom in, really, that is the area to focus on. As you can see, some pockets anyway did get 4 or 5 inches of rain there to the southeast, well southeast of Denver into southeastern portions of Colorado and east central portions, also northwestern Kansas getting a decent amount. Another pocket of some heavier moisture with generally 2 to 5 inches in the southeastern area of Kansas into northeastern Oklahoma. Otherwise, we didn't see any massive amounts like we have over the past few weeks where somebody just gets so much rain. So that is good news. It was a little more spread out than it has been. Here's the jet stream as we start the week. And again, this is just a strange jet stream for this time of the year. We've had so many cutoff lows. We still have one in the northeast. And that's just going to sit there for a while. That keeps the ridge over the Midwest, especially the eastern Corn Belt, which has been cool over the past week, or the warmth has been 2 states west. Now we shift everything a little farther east. First little piece of energy does kind of ride up over this ridge. You can see that on Wednesday moving through the northern portions of the Great Lakes. That then dives into the northeast again with another trough. The ridge builds back up into the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley. Southeast stays dry in this situation, and another cutoff low out west, which starts to come eastward, and that may finally kind of break down that ridge for a little while. Maybe we'll get things moving from west to east across the country. Here's what I'm looking at this week. Temperatures mostly above normal for the eastern half of the country. Northern portions and central portions of the Rockies probably below normal, and also a strip across Canada, as you can see there. Precipitation this coming week definitely below normal in the southeastern portions of the country, and I'd probably include the eastern Ohio Valley, much of the Tennessee Valley, and the southern portions of the Northeast. Above normal then from eastern Texas into the northern plains, and then east and west from there, especially the Rockies. As far as the 30-day outlook for temperatures is concerned, I have a lot of normal here across the lower 48, but below normal from Iowa through the Northeast, above normal for Florida, and above normal in mainly western Canada, maybe extreme northern Montana. 30-day outlook for precipitation, above normal up and down the central portions of the Rockies, above normal in Tennessee Valley, mid-Atlantic, below normal western lakes, far southern Texas, and much of Florida. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to Santa Fe, New Mexico. First of all, sunny, breezy, and pleasant, high temperature of 75. Rice Lake, Wisconsin, variably cloudy and warm, an evening thunderstorm, high of 74. And Dothan, Alabama, mostly sunny and rather hot, high up around 90.
Machinery Pete joins us next with a look at the latest trends in the equipment industry, including what they're paying for good condition used equipment, and these Texas producers are fighting some oversized pests. You know, Greg Peterson talks a lot about prices of good condition used equipment, and this morning he explains how condition really impacts the bottom line at auction.
Well, folks, the last 6 months I've been talking about how good condition used tractors have been really selling well at auction. Now let's go a little deeper on this. Now here's another example of the trend, and this came from an online auction a week ago Wednesday, bigiron.com, and this 2009 John Deere 8530 with 3,105 hours on it from southeast Wyoming sold for $138,000. Now, if we look at that price, that's the second highest auction price I've seen in 29 months. And here's a picture of the only one that went higher. This was from December 22nd, farm auction, Northeast Missouri, an 07 model 8530, 1,737 hours on it, went for $160,000. So, okay, those are the two nicest ones. But now let's talk average. The last 20 John Deere 8530s I've seen sold at auction, the average auction price is $101,525. So again, you can see how much above that $138,000 is. In fact, if you go to our machinerypete.com website, you'll see we have 34 John Deere 8530s from dealers listed for sale all across the country. And the current average dealer list price on a 2009 model is $127,833. So once again, shows you how high that auction price was at $138,000 a week ago Wednesday on the bigiron.com sale.
Thanks, Greg. We'll have a war on wild hogs in Texas after the break.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota's BV 4580 round baler. Learn more at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Wild pigs, feral hogs, whatever you call them, they're rooting their way across Texas, leaving destruction in their path. Gary Joyner has this report from the Texas Farm Bureau.
They dig, they destroy, and there's no stopping them. Wild pigs, once called feral hogs, are rooting their way across the Lone Star State, leaving destruction in their path. Damage like this. For farmer David Kraft of Comal County, the impact of wild pigs on his corn crop runs deep, tens of thousands of dollars deep, in just this field alone.
You wouldn't imagine what they can do in one night. They come in and they can completely destroy a cornfield.
Seeing the devastation leaves farmers grasping for solutions, traps, guns, whatever it takes to save their livelihoods and protect their families. This boar was trapped overnight alongside David's cornfield. He's already trapped 20 hogs this year on this farm alone. It's a daily and nightly battle.
The same night that we planted it, they came in and they'll just go right down the row and they root up the corn, and they don't miss very many of them. It's just like they unplant what you planted.
Swarms of swine are eating away at Texas, causing over $50 million in damage in the state each year. And the problem's getting worse. The pigs are thriving. There are some ways to try and manage the infestation, but they're not keeping up with population growth. One sow can have as many as 3 litters per year, with a pig count of 8 or more. David says new tools are needed now if there's any hope to stop the swine.
The hunting, I don't believe that's not quite the answer. I don't think we can ever make any headway. I don't think you're ever going to eliminate them, but we need something that is going to control better in some sort of way.
Wild pigs are not just impacting farms and ranches, but cities and suburbs, invading neighborhoods, bringing disease and safety concerns to everyone's front door.
At some point in time, you know, you've got to start getting concerned with damages not only to land, but also what about people, children? You know, they are a very aggressive animal.
David has replanted his corn twice. Its future is unknown. What is known is Texas farmers like David are trapped by frustration. They're fighting a war, one they continue to lose. With the Texas Farm Bureau, Gary Joyner, New Braunfels.
All right, thanks, Gary. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. For Mike Hoffman, Betsy Gibbon, and all of us here at Agday, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Agday is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.